Hey everybody, it's me, Zach. This is Potato, and welcome back to our channel. Hey everybody, it's me, Zach, and I am back again to cover and recap another Amberlynn Reid live stream along with a Destiny video, actually not a live stream, where she's recapping, I guess, things that happened in 2017, but also spending a good chunk of that video responding to something that Amberlynn said in the live stream I'm gonna recap. And so, as always, I'll leave some timestamps to hopefully help you decide what parts of this video you want to listen to if you're not interested in listening to all of it. And if you are interested in listening to every single thing I gotta say, thank you. I appreciate that. So let's just jump right into it, because I don't have a whole lot of fucking time for half of this nonsense, but I do have the time and I'm happy to do it. I just I didn't give myself enough time to film all this, edit it, and go live on Twitch a little bit in I don't know, an hour and a half from when I'm filming this. So of course we gotta start off with the reminder that Amberlynn looks the same as she always does, besties.
So I have a bunch of windows on this side of me, so my face automatically looks lighter on this side and darker on this side. So I just want to get that out because that was happening in one of my live streams and people were like, oh my God, her makeup's uneven and all this stuff. It's even. See?
Which, by the way, I do have some new merch available for you right now in my merch shop. Link down below in the description box if you're interested in some of that. Lots of people requested it. Highly requested content right there. But also, she lets us know that she had people send her questions on Instagram so she could answer them here.
I have questions and things I want to talk about. I did post on my Instagram, send me questions if there's any questions you want me to answer on live stream, because I know there's a lot of people who don't want to talk in the chat, which I completely understand. So yeah.
And just real quickly, in fairness, I do want to say that Destiny also did this just recently, so I don't know if Amberlynn got the idea from her or what, but Destiny did just do this in her last live stream, where she took questions on Instagram and then answered them on a live stream on YouTube. To be honest, that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, and it makes even less sense for me when it comes to Amberlynn, because I would think that Amberlynn is a little bit more understanding of how these platforms work, since she's been doing this full time as a job for the past 8 years. I feel this way because I think most creators who use YouTube as a platform and or other places like Instagram, whatnot, most creators would say that the point of doing a live stream is that it gives you the opportunity to interact in real time with the people in your audience. And so to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense to crowdsource some questions prior to live streaming and ignore the people in your chat so you can answer questions from a platform that you're not currently on. And I think it would just have been easier or more thoughtful or intentional if she had just made this a pre-recorded video with the questions she took from Instagram and went from there, because it's just really, really silly to me, in my opinion. You didn't need to be live for all of that to happen. You didn't need to be live to sit there and read questions off of your phone that you pre-picked and pre-planned your answers to. So it's really hard for me to believe that she is not just doing these live streams as a way to rake in some super chats and or just an easier way to do content without her having to edit. Although I know she said that she works very hard and that it has nothing to do with her wanting to work less hard. I also just think a sit-down video would be a lot easier when it comes to some of the points she ends up making, because she could just include the receipts a whole lot easier than it is sometimes to include in an actual live stream. It's sometimes harder to pull up, especially since she's just literally live streaming straight from her phone. She's not using a platform like OBS where she can pull up clips a little bit more easily or things like that. So anyways, one of the first claims she makes is that Destiny did hang out with her a lot during her cancer symptoms.
So first things first is Destiny keeps saying how she wasn't around for my cancer symptoms. And I just want to say that during that time, that is actually when Destiny and I were closest in like a friendship ways, when we would see each other the most. You can go back and look at that in vlogs. I actually, this is the phone that I have that I use every single day, but I have an old phone that I plugged in last night, and I was like, I need to go back and look at text because I swear I'm not crazy. Yeah. So Destiny's lying about that.
And apparently that's because she went back and looked at an old phone for proof that they hung out or something. I don't know. She doesn't actually show any of the receipts. She just holds up an old phone and says, see here? Here's my proof that Destiny did spend time with me when I had cancer symptoms. But also, it doesn't even really address the issue, which was just that Destiny said Amberlynn's swamp-ass smell happened while they were together. Which, again, I don't give a shit if Amberlynn is smelly or not, because I don't have to date her, I don't have to live with her, I don't have to do anything with her in person like that. But, like, that's what Destiny said. So just so we're clear, you know, even if they did spend time together during the cancer symptoms, like Destiny was saying, no girl, you smelled while we were together. She also does a quick follow-up on the piece about Destiny saying that she didn't want to try to hook up with somebody the day after she broke up with Amberlynn.
In her original video, she said that she was trying to hook up with the girl that she was hanging out with at work, when I was like scared that she was like emotionally cheating on me. Like I knew she was, so that's why I wanted her to contact me during lunch. It was just like this anxiety, like / I don't trust her / you know, she was trying to hook up with that girl that night that she broke up with me, and the next day, which she admits in the video. But then in her last live stream, she said that didn't happen. Again, another lie.
Which Amberlynn actually makes the same points that I did in my last video about Amberlynn and Destiny. And I do think some people were a bit confused by what I was saying, by what Amberlynn was saying, and also even by what Destiny was saying. But all Amberlynn ever said was that Destiny was trying to hook up, not that she actually did hook up. And Destiny said that she never tried to hook up. And so people heard the clip that I shared in my last video where Destiny said that she tried to hook up with somebody, but it didn't happen. And they were like, but Destiny was telling the truth. See, she said it didn't happen. And I'm just saying that what they both said originally was that Destiny had tried to hook up with somebody. So I think, like, yes, it's like a matter of semantics, but also Destiny was really adamant that she never tried to hook up with somebody else, even though that is what she had said in her previous video. Either way, this is a good example of how, if this was a pre-recorded video, Amberlynn could have pulled in some of the same clips that I pulled into my video and shown that what Destiny was saying was contradicting herself. So she's talking a whole fucking lot about reaction channels in this live stream for somebody who has multiple times at this point talked about how she doesn't watch reaction channels anymore, or she doesn't want people to send her clips from reaction channels, or this, that, the other, because of her mental health and setting up boundaries. And I am very supportive of the concept of setting up boundaries. It's just that it's very clear she doesn't respect those boundaries, and those boundaries don't mean a whole lot to her. So, for instance, she brings up the reaction channel, Oh Lordy, It's Jordy.
Just imagine that did happen. There is a reaction channel, Jordy. Hello! I know you're watching because you are also obsessed, and that's how you make your money. So, him making a parody out of abuse is disgusting. So it didn't happen, but in Destiny's brain, Destiny's mind, whatever it may be, just imagine for 3 seconds that it did. And just imagine for 3 seconds if I was to make fun of someone else's like abuse story or whatever it may be.
And in reference to him and or other reaction channels, talks about how she thinks that they are behaving a certain type of way because they want to stay on Destiny's good side.
It's just a lot of hypocritical nonsense is happening lately, and people just like almost like justifying I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say. Like, I just feel like people are trying really hard to stay on Destiny's side because they're a Amberlynn Reid reaction channel, and it's making people look really bad. Like, I have had so many people contact me, like, saying like, Jordy, I cannot believe Jordy's doing this. I've been in an abusive relationship, etc., etc. Like, it just doesn't look good.
And she's curious about when people are going to stand up against this stuff.
When is there going to be, or where and how is there going to be a person that is going to like stand up for this stuff? Because I just feel like so many people are so afraid to like stand up to reaction channels, and it's a lot.
Which is just very confusing to me because I can't compare myself to other reaction channels because I don't regularly watch them, so I don't know how much more or less I'm doing it compared to other reaction channels. But I do know there's a contingency of people who get frustrated that I am too willing to listen to where Amberlynn is coming from, too willing to be empathetic or understand where she's coming from. And in fact, since like the Destiny stuff has happened, there have been a couple videos here and there where like people just strongly disagree with me and have made their own decision to unfollow me, which is fine and is their prerogative. It's just to say that like I am actively out here in some cases defending Amberlynn, certainly not in everything, but there have been times where I was like, hey, like I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. And I do stick up for her. But, you know, all reaction channels are the same. So, it just is what it is. And like I said, she's welcome to watch reaction channels all she wants. I just think that she should also remember her boundaries every time she's said in the past, like, the stuff about not wanting to watch them because of her mental health, and yet here we are. Because she's also all about boundaries when it comes to not wanting to read mean super chats. She mentioned that in this live stream.
And I'm going to do so much better with trying to pay attention to super chats, answer them, unless it's something that where I have boundaries up and I don't want to speak about something.
But I guess we're selective about enforcing boundaries to when it fits us, huh? I will say I could maybe give her the benefit of the doubt about whether or not she's actually watching like Jordy, myself, whoever it might be, because there are 2 times in this video where she parrots what a person in her Instagram questions asks about like me or Jordy. And so in this example, I'm gonna jump ahead in the live stream to much later in the live stream where she ends up repeating all the things she just said about Jordy from an Instagram question that she allegedly got on Instagram.
How do you feel about Jordy justifying abuse just so he can stay on Destiny's side? It's pathetic. Truly.
Like, the person on Instagram asking the questions pretty much says almost exactly what she just said, like in the clips I just showed you. And I will just be clear, I don't know if that's something Jordy has or hasn't done, because I really, when I say I don't watch other reaction channels, that's not a shady thing. I just like can consume Amberlynn content once on my own, and that's usually enough for me. And so I don't watch a lot of the other reaction channels. But so I don't know what kind of content Jordy has been making, or if he's parroting her abuse or whatever it is she's saying. But I would say, given her track record, when it comes to the things that she said about my channel, it's very likely and probable that there is more to the story than what Amberlynn is sharing in this live stream. She also briefly talks about Cameo.
Okay, so my Cameo, I do have a Cameo, and I've been having to rebook a lot. So if I don't do a Cameo, there is an option to rebook it. Always rebook it if I don't do it. I've had some people contact me saying like, are you going to do mine? I had to rebook it, etc., etc. And I just want to say that I will do it. It's just I've been getting so many, and I've been getting a lot, so I haven't gotten around to do every single one of them. But I will get around to it, so I just wanted to mention that.
And I have to say, this Cameo part feels just like really silly to me, because occasionally, you know what, I do also get busy, and sometimes I forget about having a Cameo I have to respond to, although the Cameo app will send you notifications on like a daily basis reminding you to complete your Cameos. But sometimes I am just really busy, like when I was traveling a few weeks ago and things like that. But also for me personally, I can't speak to anybody else who does Cameo, but for me personally, if I miss the deadline, which is a week, by the way, a very long time to do it, if I miss the deadline, then I almost always choose to just make a video for free for that person and send it to them. There have been a few cases where somebody rebooked before I could send that free video to them, but that's typically what I've done in the past because I feel bad that I made them wait a long time. The only exception is like sometimes people will put in a 24-hour request, which is where you can pay a little bit more to get it back within 24 hours. And sometimes I really can't do it in a 24-hour turnaround. And there have been times like that where the person is just like automatically rebooked as well. But when it comes to Amberlynn and watching her content, I'm just like generally confused how she isn't able to find the time in a week's worth of time to get these done. I also probably don't have the same like load of cameo requests as she does. I probably at most get like 3, 4, 5 on a good week. And so I usually can just fit them in here and there. If she really is feeling like overwhelmed by the number that she got, I don't understand why she wouldn't just set some time aside in her day to just work on that. But also, my work ethic is different, as I think we've discussed recently on this channel. And since a few people have asked both in the past with other cameo situations, I talked about cameo once when it came to Tammy Slayton, but I've also gotten some questions about it related to Amberlynn. I just want to say that Amberlynn doesn't get any money until she completes the cameo request. And Cameo doesn't take any of that money from the person who bought it until that cameo is delivered to them. So nobody should be out any money if Amberlynn doesn't make the cameo video for them, just so that we're all clear and everybody understands how that works. I think at most maybe Cameo places like a hold on your credit card or your bank account, but it's not the full amount and you get whatever they have held back if it's not completed. And then she does come back and she says, well, also I want to talk about the situation of Destiny's mom beating me up because I found this old internet journal I used to keep on my computer.
If you guys remember where Destiny's mom like beat me up and there was something I said, I actually used to have an online journal, which I went and found. Oh my God, this online journal went all the way back to when I lived in Virginia. So it was crazy to see. It's actually a private online journal, so it's not like public. No one can go find it or anything. It's something that I used to write in a lot. And me and my ex from Virginia, we would actually write on there together. But I also would write on that when I was with Destiny.
And let me just say, you got all them damn paper journals, and it's clear now to me that you understand how to use an online journal and could have saved some of that paper. But that's really besides the point. It really is. It really is. My larger question was just why we had to come back to this on Amberlynn's channel, because Destiny hasn't really said anything more about it. And for the most part, you know, her story matches Destiny's story. But I guess the reason Amberlynn went searching for this was because she was upset that she couldn't remember what it was that she said to Destiny's mom that made her react that way.
I remember telling you guys a story about how I don't remember what I said that made Destiny's mom like attack me. And in that journal entry, I actually put what I said. I told her that I hated her because of everything that she, you know, put me through. Oh my God, it was so weird.
So I guess having that knowledge is useful for her, but I don't know that for me it really changes any part of the story, to be honest with you. I still feel the same way about it as I did the first time that Destiny shared the story. And I guess this is just where I start being like, if the point of you live streaming, so she said in a previous live stream, the point of her live streaming was because she wanted to easily be able to respond to the things that Destiny said about her, and that she didn't want to bring up anything else that wasn't necessary in order to respond to what Destiny was saying. For me, this is like, what does this have to do? Like, we're at a point where you and Destiny agree on pretty much everything and as it stands with this particular situation. And while she's talking about Destiny's mom, Amberlynn decides to bring up Dana and how Dana was a witness to what she experienced with Destiny's mom.
I don't want to air anything about like Dana or whatever, but Dana is like a kind of a good, I'm going to use Destiny's word, witness to like what I went through with Destiny's mom, because Dana kind of went through the same thing in a way, but it never got like physical. But
first of all, let me just say bravo, Amberlynn, for using such a big word like witness. But also, literally, Dana just came out in an Instagram story asking people to, like, leave her alone when it came to the, like, back and forth between Destiny and Amberlynn. She doesn't want to be a part of it. And yet, Amberlynn continues to bring Dana up, and she brings up Dana so fucking often in this specific live stream. And on top of all of that, Dana literally just went through a loss with her pregnancy, and she's clearly in like a vulnerable place, and the last thing that she probably needs right now is a bunch of people bothering her on her Instagram about Amberlynn and Destiny drama from like a year ago or more at this point. And Amberlynn even brings up the alleged screenshots that Dana has of Destiny texting her or messaging her or whatever. And it's just like, Amberlynn, get a fucking grip. And also, for whatever reason, Amberlynn decides to bring up that Destiny broke up with her for about 24 hours in the month of November.
So she broke up with me. As you guys remember, like the official breakup was January. She actually broke up with me a couple months before that in November. The breakup lasted maybe 24 hours. It was so random because like everything was totally fine. And then all of a sudden, like she just broke up with me.
I'm really unclear why this matters, because she said that she only really wanted to address things that Destiny brought up or something like that. You know, we just talked about that. And I don't remember Destiny bringing this up. Maybe I'm just forgetting about it. And even if Destiny did bring it up, I'm not sure how it's relevant now. I just like really don't understand why she brought it up at all. But apparently Destiny won Amberlynn back with a balloon, an iPad, and a card. And then Amberlynn goes on to blame this 24-hour breakup on Dana. And Dana, well, I don't know if she's blaming it on Dana. I think the blame she's really trying to place is on Destiny. But she's saying that Destiny broke up with her because Dana stopped talking to her.
So it's like, now that I am thinking back about this, she broke up with me after Dana stopped talking to her. And it's like, now that like everything is so like out in the open and I'm seeing things more like crystal clear and I'm like putting all the pieces together, I feel like Destiny, because she was emotionally cheating on me, as you guys know, I truly feel like I kind of feel like I'm kind of glad she did this, because I'm able to like heal my own type of way, like talking about this. So thanks, Destiny. It feels to me now that all the pieces are coming together that I'm so happy you found true love. Thank you, Justice. That Destiny was so hurt by Dana not talking to her that she broke up with me. Because everything was fine in our relationship. Like, she could sit here and say all this stuff, whatever it may be, but everything was fine in our relationship. Like, we were happy. Of course, there were things. Not every relationship is perfect or anything like that. But like, the big problems started when she started talking to Dana. And then when Dana started talking to her, she was like, I'm going to break up with Amberlynn so I can be with Dana. But Dana, I think, got a boyfriend. So then she tried to get back with me. Like, Destiny, gross.
And I'm just like, girl, if you don't leave Dana's name out of your goddamn mouth. Like, it's also just very clear that at that time and the storyline, based on things that both Amberlynn and Destiny have shared, there was way more going on in their relationship that was problematic than just whatever friendship, romantic chatting, romantic messaging, whatever it might be. There was way more going on than just whatever that was with Dana that were red flags in y'all's relationship. But anyway, she does mention that, you know, getting to talk about this all now is so healing for her. So I'm so happy for you, Amberlynn. I'm glad you're healing. And then she goes on this like reaction channel rant and quotes me, incorrectly might I add, but quotes me to defend her stance on reaction channels.
Someone asked, in what ways are reaction channels all the same? As Zachary Michael said, actually, in a new video, it's because they're all biased. They all have a mission, and the mission is not to be clear-headed and to understand Amberlynn Reid. It's to think Amberlynn Reid is lying about every single thing that she says, and yeah, that's their mission.
So when I first heard that, I was like, listen, if y'all don't follow me on Twitter and Instagram, you might have missed that I got injured again at softball this week. This time, like, a ball literally hit me in the face. I'm very grateful that I don't have, like, a black eye or anything like that going on now. But a ball hit me in the face, and I was just thinking, when I heard her say this, I was like, maybe that ball did fuck me up more than I realized, because I do not remember saying this in an Amberlynn video. Like, I don't remember saying this about reaction channels. I don't remember the context for this, like what happened, and then it dawned on me, and I realized, well, I talked to some people from my Twitch community who reminded me, but she got this from one of my videos about Life plus Cindy. 10 hours of live streaming content is a lot to get through, and to be honest, I can't say that I fully watched all 10 hours of the live streaming. I tried to watch good chunks of it and then also supplement with some other information from other places. So like the Life plus Cindy Snark subreddit, there was one thread that had a very detailed outline of at least the first stream that I read through. I also have watched some additional clips and things like that from a channel here on YouTube called Katie L. L as in Lisa. La Lisa, if you're a Blackpink fan. And then also I've gotten a lot of additional details and opinions and thoughts from people in my Twitch community during my live streams on Twitch. And obviously, all of those sources of information are probably biased to whatever the people sharing that information think and feel about Cindy. So keep in mind that if you want, like, the full context and tone of Cindy's messages and storytelling and things like that, the best place to go get that information is from Cindy's channel itself. So one, big fan, Amberlynn Reid, of all my content, not just the content about her. But of course she's not providing the context, which is that I wasn't talking about reaction channels at all. I was talking about the sources that helped inform the video I made and just saying like, hey, take this into account while you watch what I'm about to say here, because some of my opinions were formed from other people's opinions as well. But also, just to be clear, yeah, I think most creators have some level of bias. I mean, specifically, a lot of people in the reaction channel, Amberlynn reaction channel community, are providing their commentary, opinions, feelings, things like that. Which means my opinions, feelings, and thoughts on the matter don't have to be unbiased. They are informed by all of the things that I know about Amberlynn, all of the things that I have experienced myself in my life, yada, yada, yada. Now, I do try to present, like, the facts of what happened when there are facts to report, right? Like, when I see Amberlynn do or say something in a video, I'll provide a clip as fact or evidence, but my opinion that follows it, of course, is going to be biased by just like whatever my thoughts or feelings are. That's what an opinion is. An opinion is my thoughts on a situation based on all my life experiences and everything I know about that situation. I try not to present my opinion as a fact, but there are things that I can present as facts when it comes to Amberlynn, if that makes sense. And I can't speak for other reaction channels, but I personally never claimed to be some kind of like unbiased news journalist that's like here to report the news. I've always said I'm here to give you my commentary on some YouTube channels that I like to follow and react to and comment on and enjoy watching myself. And I think it's always good to be critical of media or social media that you're consuming. This is like something I picked up while I was in graduate school and we were, looking for journal articles and things like that and trying to be critical of the things that we were using in our homework assignments and our research, things like that. And I think it applies so much to the world around us, and there's probably not enough social media literacy to where we are being critical about things. And certainly, feel free to be critical about my opinion about things, because that's just what it is at the end of the day. It's my opinion. And actually, I think even in more recent history, a lot of you are being critical and not just blindly agreeing with me, and I'm glad that you aren't. Like, it would be a weird world if, everybody just agreed with every single thing I had to say. So yeah, definitely out of context. It definitely wasn't about other reaction channels because I don't watch other reaction channels like that. But happy to clear it up, and also happy to encourage you to be curious and critical about the sources of information you have or the things that you watch. With that being said, she does end up bringing this particular thing up again later when she's reading directly from an Instagram question that somebody asks her, allegedly.
Zach admits reaction channels are biased and can acknowledge Cindy being complex with mental illness as a person, but why won't he do that for you? I don't know. He can answer that.
So again, she's doing this thing where she's parroting what she's hearing these people in her Instagram questions ask her. And I just want to say, I've actually, like, the mental health thing is so interesting and fascinating to me because I have said time and time again that I understand that Amberlynn has several mental health challenges and that she is a complex human. And I've literally, I don't think, ever faulted her for having mental health challenges. I've been critical probably about the ways that she has approached trying to treat those because it's clear that she has not consistently treated those things. I mean, she even talks in this live stream how she, like, previously wasn't good with, like, taking her medicine and stuff like that. And in fact, in a recent video, I literally just responded to somebody's comment where they were saying that I was too trusting of her alleged, like, growth and healing through this recent therapy experience. And I was like, hey, like, if she says she's growing and healing, like, I want to believe her because I want the best for her mental health wise. And again, this is all very much taken out of the context of the video where I was talking about Cindy. Like, it is very different. And also in the video about Cindy even, I talked about the nuance of mental health, right? Like, I talked about how, you know, you can be critical of the behaviors and actions of people even if they do have mental health problems, and like at the end of the day they're still responsible for their behavior and actions. And I said that about Cindy as well. But if you really want to talk about bias when it comes to Amberlynn Reid, she has this history of consistently just taking things that people say to her on Instagram about me and running with them as though they're fact. And definitely not fact-checking any of it. I mean, just recently, she did the whole thing where she believed people when she said, she was like, oh, I heard that Cindy said in a live stream that, like, Zach was to blame for all of the hate she was receiving or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. And Amberlynn ended up having to walk that back once I pointed out to her, and probably other people pointed out to her, that that's not what Cindy said. And that's just one example. People are constantly telling her about things I said in my videos, like out of context, and she always believes them. There was one time when it was something to do with her serving sizes of food. There was another time where it was like about buying her girlfriend's love. And it's all stuff that's just like taken out of context, and she just believes it because it paints me in a bad light. So we can talk about bias if you want to, Amberlynn. I'm happy to do it. Somebody also asked her what the worst thing that Destiny ever did was.
So one thing comes to my brain, and I don't even know if I want to share it, to be honest, because it is, like, it does have to do with, like, her and, like, the way that she views the world and how to treat animals or whatever. But she had a dog named Cash, who I actually would babysit when he was a puppy. I guess Cash wasn't trained very well. This was, by the way, when her and Dana were together, so this dog was not mine. Cash ended up biting, like, a little girl, and Destiny, this is when Destiny and I were friends, and she was, like, talking to me about it, and she was like, I'm gonna have someone put down Cash. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I literally have the text messages in this phone. And I was like, no, don't. Like, literally get your dog trained. Like, train your dog. Like, dogs can change. Like, your dog is still young. When Destiny said that she was going to get Cash put down, in my head, I thought she meant, like, at a vet. Even then, I don't agree with that shit. But she meant that someone was actually going to, like, shoot the dog. That is the worst thing that Destiny's ever done. On period. So I don't know where Cash is now. I have no idea. I don't know if Cash is still alive, but that to me was a pivotal moment in our friendship where I was like, Destiny is a piece of shit.
And I do feel like this has definitely taken a turn from like, I'm only talking about what she said about me. I do feel like it's fair for people to be like, girl, what did this have to do with what Destiny had to say about you? And of course, also, this is another situation where she had all of the proof on her phone but didn't show any proof. Although Destiny does confirm it later in a live stream, and we will talk about Destiny's response to all of this. Now, what I think is interesting on Amberlynn'S part is that she threatened Destiny with this information when Destiny first started sharing info about her relationship with Amberlynn.
And that's even something that like I messaged Destiny actually when she first started this drama between us. I said, "Are you going to tell them that your mom beat me up? And are you going to tell them that you tried to kill your dog?" I said that. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Because I'm not messing around. Like, if you want to expose me, what have you exposed? Like, truly. Like, everything that you have said about me, you have exposed yourself. Like, fully and wholeheartedly.
And to some extent, I'm glad that Destiny didn't succumb to those threats. Like, something about that feels very manipulative. Like, Amberlynn is just holding on to this information to hold over Destiny's head. It feels, like, a little uncomfy to me. Like, if you had such a huge issue with that, like, you continued to be friends with Destiny after that all happened. And it just feels like a little weird to me. Like, it's definitely a problem, and we can talk about Destiny and her relationship to animals, but like, it feels very manipulative also on Amberlynn's part to like hold that over Destiny's head. Just briefly, she also talks about getting a new YouTube schedule, so I'm just sharing that for your information to be on the lookout for a new vlogging schedule.
When are you going to go back to making videos? I actually am going to be starting a new YouTube schedule. Yeah, it's been like a hot minute, but I think it's time that we switch it up. I have been doing the every other day type situation type deal for so long that I think I'm just over it. So I will talk more about what I want that to look like, I guess in a video.
And then she got a question about a time where she used to say something about her being able to lead a happy life without ever leaving her house if she wanted to.
So when I said that, it's because I was like going through like a massive low. I don't think that way at all. That's just like, it just goes to show that like when you're depressed, like the things you say, like, and how you feel is just so not you or who you truly are as a person. So it's hard sometimes to like, I can understand where people are like, we don't know the real Amberlynn. And I get that because I have been so freaking just like, I've messed up really bad with like medication. I mean, that's point blank period.
And I just thought her response was kind of interesting because it touched on this like concept of everything in her past is always comes down to like, well, that wasn't the real me, or like that wasn't showing the real me. And again, this is where we can be nuanced in our discussion about mental health, right? Like, I think it's clear to most people that Amberlynn is dealing with several mental health challenges, problems, etc. One, because she's told us, and two, because like most of us have eyes and ears and can observe this on our own. But she's still responsible at the end of the day for her behavior. And sure, it can help us understand her behavior for sure. Like, it helps explain a lot of things about her. But it goes along with some of the stuff I was saying in my last video where like anytime she's presented with like, here's this thing that happened in your past, and she'll be like, well, I was trolling then, or like, I wasn't really happy, I was just faking it for YouTube. And now it's like, oh, well, you know, I wasn't good with medicine, I was really depressed at that time, that wasn't me. And I do think that comment she made, it's like fair for her to say like, hey, I was saying that from a really depressed place. I'm not necessarily trying to criticize her for like, you know, backtracking on that and saying like, wow, that's very clear that I was a very depressed person then. But I'm just saying this in terms of like, this is a continuous challenge for her on her channel. She keeps saying things like, you know, I want to build this new community. I want to build trust with my community. I want a different relationship with my community. But everything always comes back to like, that wasn't me. That wasn't the real me. And we can only ever know the real her based on the stuff she shows us, and we can only believe what she tells us about herself, you know what I'm saying? So I think she just has like an ongoing trust issue, and I don't know, to some extent I feel like the only way for her to really go on from there is to really just move on from her past, because every time she addresses something new, it's just a reminder of like, oh yeah, we didn't really know you back then. Allegedly, she also won't be talking about Destiny for much longer.
How long are you going to talk about Destiny for? Probably not much longer. I just know that there are a lot of questions still floating about, rumors and lies that I want to clear up.
And we can only hope that this is something she actually sticks to, and this is actually something she'll follow through with, although you know her track record for sticking through promised plans, especially even when it comes to Destiny, because she said multiple times, I'm not going to talk about Destiny, I'm not going to talk about Destiny, and here we fucking are. And then one last thing from her live stream is just that she claims that she's allegedly losing money from these live streams.
We are not working together for views. Nope. Because trust me, if that was the case, I wouldn't do live streams. I would just make this into video forms. So yeah, because I'm actually losing money with these live streams. Yes, I am. Because I guess what I talk about, YouTube says, no, no, no. So.
And I'm sorry, but I just don't know that I really believe this just based on my personal experience of working with YouTube and being monetized by YouTube. I would guess maybe the only thing might be some kind of like exception for the way that live streams are monetized versus just regular videos, because I haven't done a lot of live streaming on YouTube in recent history, so maybe that's part of the difference. But even then, you know, like, if videos lose monetization, that really just means that less ads are going to play on your video, because it's only certain ads that are allowed to be played on your video depending on the content. And if you recall, at least in the first couple of live streams, Amberlynn kept awkwardly pausing for ads to run on her videos. So as long as there's ads on there, even if there's less ads than normal, like, she's still gonna get the ad revenue from those ads, at least to my understanding of how the AdSense program works. And I also have to say, she's just made probably plenty on Super Chats alone, because some of y'all love to send your money to her. But yeah, that was essentially that. I hope she doesn't come back with more live streams, just because, you know, honestly, even though I don't mind going through them all, it's just like a lot of this stuff is just getting repetitive at this point. She repeated a lot of stuff about previous things that she's already covered, that Destiny said, and it's just like, let's move on. Like, you have the power to move on from this situation. You get to decide what kind of content you put on your channel. So like, if you don't want to talk about Destiny, don't. You know? So the last thing we need to talk about is Destiny's Clarity video. That's the name of it, Clarity. I honestly thought that this video was just going to be specifically about the stuff related to her dog Cash, because it came out shortly after Amberlynn went live, so I was just like, oh, like, she's probably just taking some time to provide clarity to her audience about what happened with Cash. But she actually does spend some time talking about other things that happened in 2017. I gotta be honest with you, outside of the stuff about Cash, most of it was not that interesting, but I'll try to touch on a few things here and there. Like, for instance, Destiny tells a weird story about Amberlynn and Charlotte driving past Dana's house and seeing Destiny's car parked there, which now that she talks about it, I do vaguely remember, and I do vaguely remember thinking that's weird behavior. We also have Destiny to thank for the wine that Amberlynn consumed on Valentine's Day 2017.
Amberlynn had me get up early, and she asked if I would go get her some wine from the liquor store, and I was like, whatever, and I did. And then she got drunk.
And in general, it's clear that Amberlynn really relied on Destiny to continue driving her around for errands and to get groceries and things like that, to the extent that at one point Amberlynn okayed Dana to come along for the errand running.
And then after that, that's when Amberlynn's basically like, oh, bring Dana with us when we go to do stuff. So basically, it wasn't just like us trying to hang out with Amberlynn, me and Dana. It was me having to help Amberlynn go grocery shopping and do this and do that. Like, she always wanted to run around Lexington. She always wanted to do this. She always wanted to do that. And basically, Amberlynn was like giving me the okay to just bring Dana with us so we could spend time together.
And it's also important to note that later in the video, Destiny clarifies that, like, she rarely offered to take Amberlynn on these little errand runs, and it was mostly, like, Amberlynn asking and needing her to take her on these errand runs.
And Amberlynn states in one of those videos that I was offering to still take her everywhere and do those things that she needed to do. I did not offer. I mean, maybe occasionally I did, but most of the time she was just asking if I could, and it was either I say yes or it was just all hell breaking loose.
And then really the bulk of this video is about the Cash story and everything from Destiny's point of view on what happened. And she does address that, you know, she was going to be talking about this anyways, but was like seemingly frustrated that Amberlynn brought it up in a live stream.
Okay, I was about to explain this when I literally made this video, and Amberlynn went live today and talked about Cash, my dog Cash. His name was Johnny Cash.
And in the past, when I've talked about Destiny and her relationship to animals, I feel like I was a little insensitive because people were frustrated when I talked about, like, oh, if you're not able to afford this, that, the other, then you shouldn't take on being a pet parent. And I was specifically talking about, like, Destiny and Dana specifically because, as demonstrated here, like, most of their pets are not just, like, dogs they found on the side of the road or dogs that they were taking in. Like, Cash, for instance, was bought from some people that had puppies for sale.
When we got him, he was supposed to be 6 weeks old. It turned out he had to have only been like 3 or 4 weeks old. And I actually didn't go with him, with Dana and Maggie, her friend, when they went to get him. They just knew that we wanted a boy. We didn't want a girl. Because we didn't want to deal with, you know, a dog going in heat, getting them fixed, all that. Like, we just wanted a boy. Cash, like I said, was very tiny when we got him. I did not go with them. They went out in the middle of nowhere, and they said, we really want a boy. And the only boy they had he was like itty bitty. They said compared to the other puppies that were in the basket, he was so tiny. The guy tried to tell them that he was the runt, basically. And that's what Dana told me, because that's all she knew.
But I do just want to say, like, I'm specifically here when it comes to these things, like, talking about Destiny and Dana. And I think that, in general, there are always things that can come up with pets. And, like, sometimes we do have to make really hard decisions to, like, rehome a pet or things like that. When it comes to Destiny, even from just watching this video, it's clear that this is a repeated pattern of behavior with her, of, like, taking in animals that she's not necessarily prepared to care for and things like that. So, for instance, like, she didn't even go with Dana to get this dog. Dana got this dog, and the dog was allegedly, according to Destiny, too young to be actually given to new parents. Like, it needed to still be with its mom. And so then they had to do all of these things extra to try to take care of it. And then they also didn't take into account, like, oh, hey, we're probably going to have to, like, move around a lot. Like, we're not planning on staying here forever. And Destiny actually talks at length about how many times this dog Cash was rehomed over the time of them having it.
Eventually, we have to move out of our house, me and Dana. This is getting way ahead of everything. But eventually, we move out of our house that we first had together in with her friend. And then I moved to Florida, and Dana had them. Well, then when she was moving to Florida, we couldn't bring our animals with us. That's also when I had my pit bull. Very hard to find anywhere to live with a pit bull. I was thankful of the house that me and Dana first had together. It was like a rent-to-own type situation. But with Cash, we let Dana's dad wanted to keep him because he's a real good dog. Now, he did not let him be inside. He was chained up outside. And I feel like that's one of the things that led to everything that happens with Cash, was just, he went from being, well, he was 98% of the time outside with us too, but it was because he wanted to be. Then about a year into living in Florida, we were like, we want Cash down here with us. My dad's kind of against having a whole other dog come in the house. So I was like, well, I'll see if a friend can watch after him while we try to find a place, because we didn't plan on moving back to Kentucky. We really didn't. We didn't know what, like, if we knew we were going to move back to Kentucky, we wouldn't have brought him down here, obviously. He was staying with one friend at first, then it wasn't working out with their dog. And then he started staying with my friend Haley, and he did great there. Was around her kids, her smaller kids, never had any issues, was great there. And then we moved back to Kentucky. He was basically just with us back at her dad's house, because we were kind of staying back and forth between my mom's house and her parents' house. We had tried to take him to my mom's before, but he's too aggressive with other male dogs, and my mom had a few male dogs.
So it was rehomed when they moved to Florida. It lived with Dana's dad on a chain outside. Then they kept moving Cash from home to home when they, moved back to Kentucky, or I guess they moved Cash to Florida for a little bit with them. It's just like so many places in the short amount of time that they had this dog had lived in. Because I think she said that they got this dog in 2017, and I think in this video she says that the dog was put down in 2021. So we're talking 4 years. So the first incident that Cash had having like violent or aggressive behavior was on, I believe, New Year's Day of 2020.
I actually spent New Year's with Amberlynn and Becky and Eric and Ricky. I don't know if that's the drunk night y'all are talking about. I don't know. We still were kind of iffy on him because he had shown signs of aggression towards dogs, never people. So we still just kept weary because our roommate had a dog. And I was like, listen, while we're gone, either just let him be outside, let him in, drink water, eat, there's a water bowl outside, whatever, or keep him in his kennel, or just make sure you're like with him. If you're just going to have him out, just make sure you watch him, because I just didn't want him getting aggressive with her dog, even though it was a female dog. I just didn't want anything happening while we weren't there. Like I said, we had hung out with Amberlynn, Becky, Eric, Ricky. And she was like, well, what if we go to Olive Garden and all this stuff? So we drove, and we were literally getting into the town that me and Dana were living in. Our roommate starts calling Dana, and she's like hysterical. And she says that Cash has just bit her 2-year-old that was also living there. And we try to ask her what happened. Like, is the baby okay? Is it like, like what happened? And she did not know.
And it sounds like Destiny was doing her best to like go take care of this child, and also being upfront with like the health department and animal control or whoever. She mentions that they did have to fill out forms with animal control and the health department about the dog and the incident. But ultimately they did send somebody from the health department to come assess the dog and what needed to happen with the dog. And Destiny couldn't meet with that person, so they sent Dana's dad.
Well, Cash was down on a chain, and he let this health department guy walk down to him, rub his belly, scratch his ears, just act like the best dog to this man. And Dana's dad even explained to him, hey man, he doesn't like men, don't try to get too friendly with him. And then he let him do all that. So it was just very surprising. And the guy basically said that he didn't deem Cash dangerous. He said that it was ultimately a family matter because we were all living together when it happened, and it was up to us what we thought should be done about Cash. And when we talked to Dana's dad about it, we were like, well, how can we trust him again in someone's house? Like, we don't know what he's going to do. And he basically just said, don't put him down. Just let him stay here with me, out here on his chain, being a good dog.
And apparently that whole little situation with the health department was all fine, and they ultimately didn't have to put down the animal because of this specific incident with the little girl. Destiny goes on to say that she disagrees with Amberlynn and says that sometimes there's nothing you can do to train or help an animal.
And I know Amberlynn tried to say, oh, you can retrain dogs. No, you can't. Sometimes there's nothing you can do for an animal, but try to make it as comfortable as possible. And that's what we thought we did.
And I have to say, I just genuinely don't agree. I think that there are it's gonna probably take time and financial resources and things like that. And so maybe, they couldn't invest in a trainer to help them or anything like that. But I'm saying that there are things you probably could do. But it also doesn't really sound like they were trying to do much with this dog, like in general, like from the beginning. Like it seems like most of this dog's life was spent on a chain outside and moving from home to home to home. So like, did you even try to do anything to help this dog? Like, I think that was really missing from me and Destiny's explanation of what happened. In the spirit of Dana and Destiny moving around, they ended up moving into their own place again and trying to bring Cash with them. And of course there was a problem. So they didn't actually have Cash move in with them. Cash went to go live with Dana's dad again. And then we start the lead up into the story of what eventually leads to Cash getting put down.
I went down there and was like really good playing with him. I had him all excited. He was still on his chain though. I didn't want him to get off of it just in case. But I was playing with a stick with him, like we were playing with toys. I was loving on him, like he was being such a good dog. And I turned around from him when I went to be done playing with him to go back inside because I had got dirty. I was ready to go in. I was ready to eat, whatever. And as soon as I turned around from him, I don't know, like, what happened, but he jumped onto me, like, jumped, scratched my back all up, and was just, like, snarling and trying to get my neck from behind. And, I mean, it was scary. I honestly thought that he was going to get me, but I just barely got out of his, like, chain range.
Which, like, yeah, I feel like that probably feels like a lot to have the dog that you are holding captive on a chain come and try to attack you. Like, I'm sure that is very stressful, very anxiety-inducing, very scary. But then Destiny goes on to talk about how, like, she just wasn't sure what to do with this dog because how is this dog ever going to be able to enjoy life without human interaction?
There's just no way for an animal to have to live with no human contact, just food and water when you can get it if you let someone near you to feed you, and being tied up all the time. Like, because there was no way we could take him out anywhere. How could we trust him? Like, it was very emotional for me and Dana. We were both very upset.
And I don't know, bestie, maybe that would have been a good question to ask when you initially started chaining him up outside and moving him from house to house. Like, it doesn't sound like to me this dog was getting lots of human interaction. Like, I just don't genuinely understand what's up with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And then we find out that, like Amberlynn said, Destiny and Dana didn't take the dog to a vet to get put down. Like, he was put down by Dana's dad.
And Dana's dad ended up putting him down for us. Yes, that means that he used, I don't know how to say that without it getting, like, in trouble on YouTube, but he did it himself. That's all you need to know, really.
And allegedly, according to Destiny, this is like a pretty normal thing in the South or something.
I don't know if it's like a Southern thing, if it's like a backwoods thing, but it's pretty, I don't want to say normal, but my whole life I've had to have dogs put down and us just be the ones to do it. I've never done it myself.
I don't know. Personally, to me, that feels like a lot. I don't understand. Like, I couldn't find myself in that position or that situation. I think there are certainly times where dog owners have to come to terms, or pet owners in general, have to come to terms with, like, what decisions they need to make about the continued life of their animals. And certainly those are complex and difficult decisions and things like that to make. But this specific story just feels like a lot to me, and I do feel like that dog probably deserved more than what it got, to be honest. Just like from my personal listening to that story, I just feel like that dog deserved more. But yeah, that's essentially the story per Destiny, straight from Destiny's mouth. And I do find it interesting that now Destiny is repeating what Amberlynn has been saying about some of the stuff that Destiny was saying, which is that this wasn't Amberlynn's story to tell.
So that is what happened with Cash. It wasn't her story to tell. It wasn't her business.
Which I do think is kind of interesting because it's like, bestie, you came onto the internet and started talking shit about your ex. I don't know what you expected. You also did kind of involve her in the situation. Like, Amberlynn, per both of you, used to watch this dog, babysit this dog for you. And you also were, like, with Amberlynn when you found out about the little girl getting bit by it. And I'm also confused because Destiny, even in this video, already said, like, hey, I got notes about this situation, and I was gonna talk about it anyways. But basically, it sounded like she was just pissed that Amberlynn talked about it first. And the only other thing that I wanted to provide an update on from this particular video from Destiny is that she just clarifies why she stayed in touch with Dana after they broke up.
Me and Dana, like I said, had a friendly relationship because of the relationship that we had with her nieces and nephew. Like, they literally are still part of my whole world. Dana had posted a status in rebuttal to that because we were Facebook friends. I thought we were cool, and she posted something that said that I always played the victim or something. We were friends, and then she posted that, and then I was just like, really, you know, my feelings were hurt because I thought things were cool between us, and then she was going to say something like that, so I blocked her on everything. Had her blocked until I found out she was pregnant. When you're with someone for so long and they want children, and you have to talk about who's going to carry the child and who can't essentially carry a child. And you find out the person that you didn't think ever could hold a child has one. You know, like, I felt very happy for her. She deserved it. And of course, I unblocked her, and I reached out to her. Lexus knows this, and Lexus knows how I feel about it. You know, like, I just congratulated her, and I said, you'll always have this big piece of my heart. You know, like, I mean, you thought you were going to spend your whole life with somebody.
And I think all of that makes sense, and I'm glad that she cleared that up because I don't think she really, the first time, properly answered that question in terms of, like, why she was currently talking to Dana. But now that she has, I think that that reason makes a lot of sense, and it's fine by me. Not that she needs my approval, but, like, it makes sense to me that she would be back in touch with Dana to talk to her about that. So yeah, we covered a lot. A lot, besties. So thanks for sticking with me through this whole video. Certainly let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section if you have any additional thoughts. And if this is your first time watching, make sure to subscribe down below. Hit the bell button so you get a notification every single time I post a new video. Make sure to leave me a comment, hit like, click share, and follow me on all my social media. Make sure to check out the new merch that's available in my merch shop down below, and have a great day. Bye!